Yes.
Great. Hey, folks. Welcome to Shift Office Hours. We're here to spend our Friday afternoon, a Friday lunchtime with you, talk about marketing ideas from Shift Collaborative. And I am Cynthia Closkey. I'm one of the partners at Shift. With me is Sarah Mayer.
Hey, Sarah. Hi, everyone.
So it's Friday, December 11th. By the way, this is Max. Hi, Max. Max is our office hours buddy. So it's Friday, December 11th, and here we are. It's already December. Feels crazy. We're well into the month. And so as we're coming up on the end of the year, it's a good time to reflect back on the year, and actually reflect back on office hours as a whole, because we started this. When did we start it, Sarah? Was it in April or was it in March?
That's a good question. I should have probably looked back. I'm gonna guess April.
Yeah, I think so too, because we've been thinking about doing some video things, and with the pandemic, we'd also been planning to do some live events and so on. So with the pandemic, though, we couldn't do the live events in person. In-person events. But we thought we had the opportunity to help small businesses, who were trying to scramble and figure out what to do. To keep themselves afloat, but without spending any money. What with all the uncertainty and perhaps a drop in income and all of those things. So we thought it would be good to get on get on the computers, use all the things that we had, and be live and answer questions, offer advice, give people ideas of ways to kind of get through.
Yeah. And, just help in a way that we can, by providing the kinds of advice that we give to our clients on a regular basis. So, comes easy to us to, I think, help people inside of marketing, communication, and design challenges. So it's hopefully been helpful to the folks out there, and we've had a lot of fun for sure.
Absolutely. And I think we've learned a lot too. And there's a certain value in, taking a pause and really talking about things with each other. Often we're so busy doing the work and not necessarily discussing, different, issues in marketing between ourselves. You're on your projects, I'm on mine. And so that part's been fun too, at least for me, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But even so, again, kind of taking a look at the year and looking at what's coming up ahead, we're sort of thinking, well, maybe this is a good time now that we're wrapping up December, the year, to look for our next adventure, and bring a close to sort of the weekliness of office hours.
Yeah. So, as you said, we have experimented, I think, a little bit more, or dipped our toe more into video content from that we've developed. We certainly help our clients with that sort of thing, but we hadn't really done it for ourselves, So, so as we kind of continue to explore that, I think in 2021 we'll be continuing to create video content. But as far as office hours, we're going to say goodbye, at least for now. So next week will be our last episode, and that will wrap up the year. And I think that'll be 27 episodes. So
it's a lot. Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a good library of stuff. And certainly if you certain topics that are interest of you, browse through the playlist and see if any of the descriptions catch your eye. You can always go back and watch old ones, and hopefully those continue to be helpful to people.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to probably go back through and revisit the topics that were most interesting, and then think about other ways to use video and other media that we have, blogs and other tools, to dig in a little deeper on some of them, or come up with nice, effective, what's the best way to communicate each of those things and really help people out.
That's right.
Always good stuff. Right, Max?
Right. Max is really interested in being a part of these final episodes, so we're not going to deny him.
No, absolutely. He's our real star.
Yes, he's really what you come for.
Cameo appearances by your dog, Oliver.
Yeah, usually when he's barking, let's be honest. Uh, he's not exactly made the softest of landings in the weekly video. But anywho, so I guess on with the show, as they say. If you are new around here, not sure how office hours traditionally works, we are here to answer your marketing questions. You can chat them to us in the live stream chat. You can also send them to us via email at officehours@shiftcollaborative.com. We will take a look at the email one and probably answer those next week if any come in that way. But you're always welcome to share anything via that live chat and we will answer that. But while we're waiting for those questions to come pouring in, we are going to use today's episode to talk about 2021 and, what sorts of marketing things you can be thinking about in 2021 after, 2020 has been such a year of shift and change and transition and upheaval and all the things.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So December actually seems almost a little bit, not almost, but kind of late to be thinking toward next year. I think in general, you want to think a few months ahead, but this is a good moment to say, well, how was this past year?
Mm-hmm.
What worked, what didn't? And so as far as like a great way to start and then think about how next year's going to go and put together some realistic tactics. Let's think about that. So what's the starting point that you most prefer, Sarah, as you're kind of doing a new plan or evolving a plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think that goals are always a good place to start, but I think before you even get there, with the year that we've just had, and we work with a lot of different types of businesses, small, medium, large, nonprofit organizations, and they all had particular things that they dealt with as a part of the pandemic and changes in where they work and how they deliver services. And so I think, it's always good to start by reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of looking back at, all right, well, perhaps this is what we were planning going into 2020. You had that plan, you were starting to implement it in January and February, and then March hit, and things changed most likely for you. So and you probably haven't had a lot of time to sit down and go, okay, because the changes and the things have been, coming so fast, and certain businesses have had to really adapt on the fly. So I think just,
in a lot of cases.
Yeah. So I think just reflecting and looking back at, the kinds of things that you did throughout the year, of those things, what worked? Are there things you want to keep doing? They went well, and even though you hadn't planned on doing them, it is sort of striking a chord and resonating with your target audience. So
yeah, just for example, for us, we talked, we said just a minute ago how we had done a little bit of a pivot. We'd been planning to do in-person events and making that a big part of our marketing push, and that was clearly not going to happen. But also we had to be thoughtful about like who even was in our marketing and going forward. Like some of the businesses that or nonprofits we might have wanted to connect with, we're not going to have the funds, or we're going to have so much uncertainty that they would want to be a little more careful. On the other hand, other of our clients were doing great, so we needed to kind of shift to serve them. So I think looking back, there are many things about our past plan that I would still want to try when the world comes back around again.
Yeah, for sure. I think the other thing is part of the reflection that for ourselves that we are looking at are, kind of the things that are changing in the industry, like Google's Core Web Vitals and some other major things that are happening that do require us to maybe create a brand new service that we didn't have before. And so we're looking at that. And so maybe as you're out there kind of thinking about what you're currently offering, is there a need that's unmet right now that your business could, fulfill for people. And so kind of, really thinking through the kinds of maybe questions that you get from people have been getting from people this year. It could lend itself to some ideas for doing new things.
Mm-hmm.
So that
absolutely.
would be, so reflection, step one.
Always good. Then saying, well, now that we, as we're looking ahead, we've still got these sort of waves of uncertainty coming at us for the coming year. We don't know how quickly. I mean, it seems more hopeful than a couple months ago, but I think maybe this is a place where setting some goals that are super realistic. You can still have that idea of a stretch goal, like if things go well, here's what we'll do. But I think there's a piece of it where you want to say, well, this is what we know we can probably do. Maybe also here are some contingency plans. Here's how we'll shift if these different scenario come up.
Yeah, it's always important, I think, to have plan Bs, maybe plan Cs,
Mm-hmm.
just depending.
Mm-hmm.
And, really measurable outcomes that you can
Mm-hmm.
benchmark against to see where you are. And throughout the year and checking in with those goals, not at the end of 2021, but on a regular basis, maybe monthly or perhaps quarterly. I prefer monthly, but it depends on your business, of course.
Yeah, I would think so. This year felt like it went so fast. And again, I think all the change going on and uncertainty is part of that. But so I think, you can say to yourself, well, we'll check in on this quarterly, but I think it's even more important than ever to use your tools, whether they are, if you've got a printed calendar, writing in a little note saying, this is when we're going to do this, so that it doesn't sort of fly by just while you're dealing with the dailiness of life and the regular day-to-day tasks, to really schedule the time for that check-in and measurement.
Right. And I mean, some folks, are looking at, depends on your business, but some folks are looking at, say, search trends around their particular service or topic on a weekly basis to see, is there any increase in interest? Because, as an example, summer camps were canceled. A lot of them were canceled or offered virtually in 2020. And we have a couple of clients that run summer camps, and we started to follow the search trends of when people were looking, and if there was an increase, in that search volume at a later date than normal. And that did happen, that people were interested in getting some sort of programming out there, but they started searching for it much later than they normally would. So we were able to kind of identify, because we were watching it on a weekly basis, when it did spike up. And so some things you might want to look at more regularly than monthly or quarterly. So depending on what that is.
I think that's a great tip. And so if people are to search for search trends, where would we want to send them, or what should they be keeping an eye on?
Yeah. Good question. They can look at a couple different things. Google search trend, Google Trends is, where we're looking, and you can isolate that by region. So geographically, you can get that to where you need it to be. And you can also, if you have a Google Search Console account, you can get a regular report on what you're impressing on. If there's types of searches that, are new, and you're like, oh, we're showing up for these searches, and we didn't realize that was a thing that people would, think of us for. It can give you ideas about new content to create, new offerings, all that sort of thing. So, I would recommend using both of these tools, and they're free.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think that's useful for folks. I think that the search trends in particular, people have a sense that they want to know about that. And certainly in some of the tools, the things like if you're on Facebook or Twitter, you see trending things being promoted to you there, but you don't have a sense that you get to control it. So these kind of tools are, I'm changing my screen on me, excuse me. But these kinds of tools where you can really say, I'm interested in this, and do some tracking. That's valuable.
Yeah. And I think it's always important when we talk about goals and about making realistic goals, that they should align with your overall business priorities. So if you've had a lot of changes in 2020, really checking back in on what do we have a shift in priorities now because of all the changes that we had, or are we going back to basics to where we were before, or some combination of that? And so, I think that it's important to make sure that whatever your marketing goals are, that they should sync up with your business priorities.
Oh, for sure. All right, so now you've got some goals. You've looked back to see what worked and what didn't, why. You've got yourself some goals and some contingency plans, and you're tracking some trends. So, how does the rubber hit the road? What's next in the plan?
So, one of the things that I would recommend to any kind of business pretty much is to look at what sorts of digital tactics you can take advantage of. There's, depending on your industry, you can certainly right now, even in fourth quarter and in the first quarter of next year, get really good deals on traditional media. There's a lot of, large advertisers, small, medium advertisers that have, tightened the purse strings or have been advertising in say, outdoor or radio to target commuters that are no longer commuting. So they've really pulled back on those advertisements, which leaves a lot of open inventory and leaves a lot of opportunity for you to make traditional media buys. So I'm not saying don't do that. It's just that digital tactics, if you're not doing a lot of them, or if you haven't done them at all, definitely want to look at them, because the behavior of all consumers and all business owners practically is that they're working from home and they're home a lot. And so they're utilizing social media more, email more, they're live streaming all of their programming. So they're, watching live streaming that you can purchase ads in potentially. So really looking at what digital tactics might make sense for who your audience is something that we would highly recommend for 2021, because I don't think that trend is going to necessarily change, and it might take a while to go back to normal in terms of like going to work again, commuting.
Mm-hmm. And even when it does, I mean, I think that a number of the digital channels, they've grown, they've become more sophisticated in some cases, or they've stayed simple, and that's how people are valuing that. So just a lot of tools there that are useful to check into and can be relatively economical, or at least have a good ROI.
Yeah. And I think on that kind of budget conscious, sort of line of thinking, there's a couple of channels that I would say look closer at. One of them being your email marketing list, or just your email list. If you have current customer or client emails, if you have a database of prospective clients and customers, that's yours. You've cultivated it and grown it in some way. You should use it and really think about not just sending emails randomly, but really kind of sit down and say, all right, what kind of strategy can we use to market to this list of great folks? Because it won't cost you any really additional money to do that if you've already got that list going. So something like perhaps creating some sort of, lead nurturing series to move folks from maybe cold to warm, or whatever the, situation might be. But that's a really, I think, budget friendly channel. Mm-hmm. And, we are getting a lot of emails, but they're still getting through. And a lot of our clients are seeing good open rates on their emails now.
For sure. And email gives you, like you say, you can see what the effects of it. You can see exactly who's going on there, and you can continue to build that list. And, like you said, Sarah, if you've got a list, make use of it. These are people that have already indicated they want to hear from you. If you don't have a list, there's never a better time to start than now.
Yeah.
Start building that, because it's going to be a useful tool for you. It will take a little time, but it will be worth the investment. It's easier to sell to somebody that already has a relationship with you.
Right. And who has, put their email address and said, you can email me. They've opted into your list. So, keep that relationship fresh.
For sure. Also on the sort of like free and easy line, I think about, the different online listings that Google and Bing and others have, where they've already, maybe captured your location, and they've got some information that they gleaned from, the myriad sources that they've had over time and built over time. But then you get to claim that and have some influence over it. And I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, but it is among the freest things you can do, and it's something that's going to get a lot of visibility.
Yeah, because it's, in the case of, let's say, Google, the Google My Business listing, that shows up in search, and you can get great analytics just from that, like seeing how many people have viewed and clicked, and that incorporates reviews. So that's, third-party validation to a prospective customer about your service from your existing customers. So it's really, great for increasing your overall online presence. But if you haven't claimed that listing, or you have, but you're just not really paying that much attention to it, now would be a really good time to take another look at it.
Yeah, you can continue to kind of build that presence. Just adding in a few photos. You can post, updates to your hours, particularly good for over the holidays right now. Yep. And let people know. So for example, I think, a lot of us are trying to get takeout and in other ways support our local restaurant communities. And the first thing I'm trying to spread out that love for a couple of different places and try different things, and being able to, at least see the menu and know like what the hours are, and know that they're the current hours. If their hours, you can add a little note in to kind of indicates to people, yes, we're keeping this current. That will help. Right. And give people the confidence, like, I don't know, are they open or not? I drove by, they seemed like they were, so that kind of a thing I think is helpful to remove one area of uncertainty for your prospective customer.
Yeah, absolutely. So highly recommend claiming those listings if you haven't already done that.
I'm getting some takeout at the end of today.
Yeah,
by
and
the way,
supporting your local businesses for sure. Right. Another thing that you can sort of point your focus to would be to brush up on your social media skills. Like it or not, the majority of people are utilizing social media. So your target audience is most likely on some channel. It's really just knowing which one they might be most likely to frequent. So really think about who your target audience is first. You do have to have some knowledge about who are the types of people that you're trying to reach, and thinking about where they might be in social media. And that's like step one. And then creating a plan for how would you want to engage with those types of folks in social media, and how can you create content that's useful to them and, authentic to your brand.
I want to put in an extra plug for LinkedIn, by the way, because I feel like this year LinkedIn has, or maybe I've gained a new level of respect for the influence that LinkedIn can have. So, as an example, you might have a, you might be marketing to, you think, just general consumers. So maybe Facebook would be great. There's a lot of sharing, but because so much of the business that we all do, even on a daily basis, is built on relationships. LinkedIn is so strong on those relationships and in a trusted way. And it's kind of a little bit free of some of the political and sort of misinformation stuff that's going on the other channels. Even as the other channels are doing a better job of labeling or cracking down or wiping out information, posts and things that are not good. Yeah. But LinkedIn, like, as you're building relationships, what I'm seeing on some of my clients, there's a lot more traffic coming from LinkedIn in proportion to the efforts that we're doing on other social media than I would have expected, even on consumer level things. So don't disregard it, I think, is the advice I would give folks.
Yeah. And, I think we could just talk about LinkedIn marketing in general, but one thing is to make sure, as perhaps a business owner or business decision maker at a company, that your profile on LinkedIn is really up to date, and kind of you're keeping keeping the information current, just like you would with any other listing, that is a, point on the path to conversion for some people. They are, if you're kind of a known person at your organization and someone's looking to buy from you, they might look at your LinkedIn profile. In fact, they probably will look at your LinkedIn profile as well as your company's LinkedIn profile. So just make sure those things are not something that you've kind of not been keeping up with because you haven't considered that they are getting, they're a part of the decision making, but they are.
Absolutely. Thinking about my own personal LinkedIn profile, you've got me thinking I probably ought to just go give it a look. I don't think it's out of date, but I know the photo on there is from 20 something. 13. Right. I mean, my hairstyle changes all the time anyway, so it's not as though the hair alone would tell you that it's different, but maybe the wear and care of of the past year aren't showing up in that photo's face. And so this makes me think of something. It's kind of related, but I have certain clients, and I'm sure that you know these kinds of people too, Sarah, who are just like, let's keep using this photo from when I felt more pretty.
Yes, when my skin was glowing.
Right. Or at least, and it's funny how, you probably at the time, someone might have hated that photo, but now looking back, I'm like, wow, I looked okay. So, yep. But yeah. I just want to remind folks that, you still look great, and you're not meant to be a model unless you're a model. Yeah. We don't need you to do that. We want you to be real. We want you to be you. And those photos, keeping those a little bit current also has value. Maybe you feel like the lines and the gray hairs make you look older, but I would say they make you look more experienced. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think anytime you can just be real, be authentic, whether it's you or your brand, people connect to that more naturally, whether they can sort of vocalize it or not, or articulate that that's a thing, but it's definitely something that I think crave too right now, is just like realness, not the fake, glamour shot that you got in 1995. Nobody wants to see that. Maybe you don't have one of those, but nobody wants to see it. I promise you, unless they're laughing about
something
it.
From high school with like, a star or something.
Yes, shooting star background. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, none of that. I just think right now in marketing, and I think we've talked about it a lot on office hours, a lot of advertisers are really looking or digging deep in how can they be reflective of current feelings and emotions by their customers and speak directly to it and not kind of gloss over it or act like this is a normal year, because it's not.
Yeah, just be real with that.
Mm-hmm. What else in terms of digital tactics might we recommend people try on?
Well, we talked a little bit about search trends earlier, and so that is just part of, people are searching for things. We're all searching.
Yes.
For things, but what if for the people who are searching for you, making sure that your web presence is suited for that. So, which, again, the terminology, folks watching this, I'm sure that the term SEO, search engine optimization, is not a surprise, but it gives you the opportunity to make sure that the pages on your site are findable, and that they're findable for the words that people are actually searching for. Sometimes people, they get concerned because their site's not coming up when they type in the one word, like donuts. Why doesn't my site come up? Well, maybe donuts is not specific enough to the, maybe at least donuts in Pittsburgh, or, donuts or wherever I am. So maybe a better search term to optimize for. And so thinking about that, it's one of the, there's a lot of work that you could put in. There's a whole science behind search engine optimization, but even doing some of just the basic things and double checking that what you have is actually, working at all. It's worth your efforts.
Yeah. And there's a plethora of SEO tools, and we actually, had a episode 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, where we brought on one of our SEO partners to talk a little bit more about, content strategy and SEO. But if you're just trying to see baseline, kind of what your site is doing, there are some free tools out there that you can throw your URL into. Moz.com has some tools that you can use. Now they have paid tools, but they have some free tools that they'll allow you to do some scans of your website. And then there's also a tool called Woo Rank, WOO Rank. And they also have a paid version, but for one time, you can run your site through their tools and it'll give you like a nice little report that can kind of point out where you're doing well and where you have opportunities to improve.
Absolutely. So Woo Rank, and I just clicked on their ad, so they'll know their ad was working. And Moz, as you say, has great tools for evaluating. Also, lots of great resources. So we have a whole section, free SEO tools for getting some metrics, exploring links, all these good things that you can use and play around with. And then they have great resources in the form of their blog, their Whiteboard Friday, which I think has always been a inspiration to us as far as like really good, consistent, free content that they're sharing with the world that then becomes this base of knowledge. And it, by the way, is acting as really great SEO content for them to let when you search for, I wouldn't be surprised. Let's find out. Search engine optimization. I would SEO, well, these people are advertising, so you always have the freedom to do that. But here's Moz right here, Beginner's Guide to SEO. So I think the work that they put in and their smarts in general are proof in the pudding.
Yeah, they have a lot of this is an example of they have, very they have great content for people that are at the beginning of their SEO journey and really just trying to understand. But for practitioners like us that have maybe been doing it for a few years, they have kind of higher level type content as well. The next level of information. So depending on where you are, you can get any kinds. It's not just beginner stuff. And the free tools, one of the free tools that they have is the Moz bar, I think it's called. And and if you use Chrome, you can install that and then you can go to each page on your website and it'll give you little scores on that page and tell you a little bit about that page in particular. Because one of the things to remember is that your site doesn't rank as a whole, but individual pages on your site will rank based on the content that's on that page. So, that's kind of what we were talking about a minute ago, just like thinking about looking at some of the pages that you want people to go to and look at the content and say, is there enough content? Is the theme of this content clear? What would somebody actually put into a search engine to potentially get to this page? So kind of thinking through all that stuff. And these tools can help you figure that out.
Excellent. So much that's free. It's an interesting world that we live in now.
Yeah.
You do get a lot of valuable things from paid subscriptions, we should also add, but if you're starting out, definitely try the free things first.
Yeah, exactly. And see which ones are most valuable to you and then maybe upgrade from there.
Yeah. And what other things would you suggest, Sarah, for people trying as they're thinking toward next year, at least the first half of the year? What do we do in the first quarter? What do we do in the first 6 months until we all get vaccines?
Yeah, right. Well, I think one of the things that we're, at least in our industry, and I think that this is pretty prevalent across the board, are organizations and businesses are creating content that they can deliver virtually. So where you might have had an in-person event, before, you can, kind of translate that same content to a virtual world, have a webinar. If you record that webinar, which we would recommend, then it's available and you can share it with folks and you can put it on your website. You can make it be a gated piece of content. So somebody would have to in the future, give you their email, for example, to get that video and that webinar. So there's lots of really great things that you can do. And, what's great about a webinar or any kind of virtual event is it really gives people an opportunity to see your range of capabilities and your expertise. Maybe, you have a person on your team that is really, expert in a particular subject matter. Bring them out, interview them, talk, have them be a part of that event. So, and it doesn't have to be a highly produced, situation. I think that what, potential customers and current customers are pretty forgiving these days about the production quality. I don't think everybody knows we're working from home, and, the internet connection that we have at our house is the internet connection that everybody in our house is using, and there's ups and downs, and, no one's expecting you to have a whole video team there to shoot it. And there's lots of tools that can help you have a webinar or have a virtual event.
As inspiration, I want to kind of point out something that they're not our clients, but our clients, if you will. Among the organizations we work with is the Fine Chocolate Industry Association. So people who make or supply cocoa, fine chocolate. And so some of their members have been offering chocolate experiences. And so you think about, like, how can I have a virtual experience of chocolate? Well, so they're doing a couple things. A lot of them, there's like a hands-on kit that they'll mail to you. Like if you set up something, you're going to get something in the mail, and then you're going to do it. There's going to be a tasting where they're going to be talking, and you're going to be sampling things and talking it through. So they've got a whole page devoted to their members who are doing things along these lines. And I was really impressed by this. You could use them as like a team building exercise for a business. If you're trying to bring your team together and do something fun for the holidays. Might be a little bit late to order for the holidays, but a family party, maybe thinking ahead to, Valentine's Day, well, Mother's Day or something like that. So, and this one here, Lux Chocolate, has Coco Van, their chocolate and wine experience, which
Let's
sounds
sign up for that
too.
one.
So I like the idea that they're combining the physical and the remote, and allowing an expert to speak to people in a way that and really, offer context to things and make it a little bit more fun, and still maybe your group of friends or your family gets to be involved. So neat experiences like that. So how could your business combine that? What could you ship out, or what could people receive or get on their own and then come into the space and interact with you?
Yeah. Lots of things to do. You can be as creative as you want.
Yeah, well, and we have to be.
There's no limitation is my point. But yeah, those are just some of the things that, just tips that we would suggest you start thinking about sooner rather than later, as the year is definitely winding down really fast at this point. And figure out what makes sense for your business in terms of some of these digital tactics. You don't have to do all of them. Pick one or two that make sense and kind of dip your toe.
Set a plan for the year, plan out your goals, see how you do. And then come back and tell us how you did, because I think we would want to hear. As we said, we're gonna be wrapping up the weekliness of our office hours, but Shift is not going anywhere. We're still going to be around, and so we would love to hear back. And then we'll probably build on some of those ideas for future blog posts and videos like this, and maybe the occasional live stream where we all get together and chat.
Yeah, for sure. We'd love to hear from you. So next up is, we call this segment like how to, I don't know how to will get with it. I just wanted to share a tool and talk a little bit about Google's Core Web Vital update. Is something that we've been trying to keep top of mind with our clients on a regular basis. And if you're not sure what it is, basically Google has rolled out a new ranking factor. So in their algorithm that determines, what shows up on the search engine page, they have over, probably hundreds of different factors that are a part of their algorithm. Well, they have this new thing called Core Web Vitals, and it is sort of a series of different types of metrics that are all giving you a score about your page experience. And so it will become vital, as it says in the name, to be paying attention to, where your site is falling in these different vitals. So one of them is page load time. So as you see here, something that, is hard sometimes because you've got a lot of really great assets on your page to load really great video or really great image. Well, that can slow down page performance among lots and lots of other things. So you have Apple up here, and we're using
I thought if we're
Chrome.
going to pick on somebody, let's pick on somebody with a deep pocket who's, either we can express astonishment that it's not better, or nod knowledgeably that of course they've devoted their time to this. Either way.
But in true how-to fashion, we've skipped over the how to get to this.
Oh, sure. Okay, let's do it.
So if you go to apple.com and then you have to be in Chrome, the Chrome browser. And then you right click.
Made by Google. I think people know Chrome is from Google.
Yes.
So if I right click, then I see this inspect dude down here.
I do see it.
Pick him. And we've got, this is the code that's building this web page, which is all sorts of stuff going on. These are styles that make it happen. And then there's all kinds of tools. This is the one we want here, which is
Lighthouse. Yep.
Right.
Now you don't, if you want to uncheck some of those things, it will so you could take off progressive web app, for example. And then you can choose which device you want the Lighthouse report to give. And so either mobile or desktop. I think we do desktop, but that's fine. And then hit generate report. And it's generating it for this page, mind you. It is page specific. And if you have a really large site with lots of pages and you want to run Lighthouse, there are tools where you can do it in bulk. But this is just a nifty tool if you want to get a quick score on, what's happening on the page.
Right. And so as you can see, it produced a couple different things. You're going to get different scores for desktop and mobile. So there's a reason why they're broken apart. But so then there's a summary at the top. They're in the greens and the yellows. So they're doing things pretty well. And then they've got some areas where they could improve, but even looking at the numbers, they're leaning up towards the top of that.
Yes. Yeah. They're on the top of the spectrum. So some of these things, the first contentful paint, that is a mouthful.
Yeah. So, and I can't remember if we talked about all of this when we talked about Core Web Vitals before. I feel like I've been talking about it a lot, but they have some, helpful visuals that allow you to see, some of these things. I'm trying to figure out what's the way to make it show more information. So there's information, and then for each of them, there's a learn more link that lets you understand what they mean and why and how it works, how it measures. And then most importantly, perhaps how to improve. So the how-to stuff is helpful, but in general, they're letting you know, okay, 2 seconds, that's considered not great.
Right.
So that's one of the things that's dragging this score down.
Yeah. And just so that folks know what that is, that's the first contentful paint is the time it takes to download to render the first image on the page, or is it the largest image on the page?
First, and then I think what's the second one is largest. There's two separate ones.
Okay.
Right? First and
so
largest.
The first text or image. Yeah.
And this thing here is supposed to be showing it to me, but for whatever reason, it's really tiny and short. I guess because I have my window scrolled funny. But if I had the window more open when I ran the test, it would have showed me more.
Gotcha.
But I didn't, because I wanted you guys.
But you can see on there that there's 3 blank images before it took those 3 blank images. The time it took to get to the first contentful paint was
3 units seconds. Right.
Yeah.
And then going down there, we've got more tips explaining more things that can be fixed, things that got passed. And so there's some performance areas that they could improve upon and bring this score up into the green region. And then they did better on accessibility, which doesn't surprise me at all. I know they care a lot about these issues. Accessibility means how usable is it for people with different vision issues, or people who are using it with different kinds of devices that maybe read the screen to them. So there's a lot of good things they're doing there. 100% though, I'm really struggling to think if I've ever seen 100 before.
Yeah, I don't think I have, for
sure. For best practices. These are all the things that they passed. They're secure, Their links are safe. They're not asking for geolocation permission on first load or notification. The notification permissions are really driving me insane these days, by the way. People always want to notify me. No one wants, literally no one wants to be notified. Ever.
I know. I've accidentally hit allow before, like the very first time I ever saw one of those. And then I started getting all of these alerts and I was like, what did I do? I had to fix it.
So they've done an amazing job on this, and then it's not applicable to have font display. I'm sure they're doing good things with their clever fonts. So good job, Apple. We are so proud of you.
Go you.
Go you. And then SEO. And I would argue that Apple doesn't have to try as hard on SEO because they do. So their brand awareness is excellent.
Yeah, this is their homepage. So you would think their homepage would have pretty good SEO score.
That's true. That's true. They are, their robot.txt is not.
That's interesting.
Yep. And some links don't have descriptive text.
Anyway, anytime you see that little caret, that gives you a little more information that you can learn about what the issue is and dig a little bit deeper and what specifically is kind of flagging a bad score in that area. So this is free. It's a helpful tool to kind of get the lay of the land of a particular page on your website. So check it out, see if it can be helpful to see where you might fall. And the reason why we keep talking about it is that when we say it's a ranking factor, that means that if you're not, if you're in the 0 to 49 category of scores on some of these things, that means you're not going to show up in search starting in May 2021, or you could be on page 40.
Right. And if your desktop is different from your mobile and your mobile is very low, then you might show up on your desktop computer when you go to look for yourself. But if someone's trying to search for you from a phone, they might not see you. And if you're not regularly checking that, you may not know.
Yeah. And by the way, Google's doing this not to, well, I don't know, they're not trying to keep us on our toes and, make us do more work. They say that they're doing this to this is all for the user, all for the person who's out there, experiencing these websites, to make sure that Google is serving up the results to people that are searching, they're going to have the best experience. They're not going to have to wait for the page to load. They're not going to have any, issues. It's going to be a good experience, and they don't want to serve up content that is going to cause people to be annoyed. So,
which makes sense.
Where that's at.
Cool.
So we have a few more minutes. We could maybe go over some newsy things.
Yeah, let's talk about, one of the things that we talk about this time of year, every year, is Pantone and their colors.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. I think that's kind of a fun story.
So this just came out. Was it yesterday or the day before? It was this week, right?
It was definitely this week. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is new, and they, usually this is when they come out with it in December, and these are the colors for next year, right?
Right. So let me pull this up here. We're grabbing an article from The Guardian. Thank you, British publication, The Guardian. Everybody go visit and let their advertisers have some love. So this year's, so typically Pantone will have one color of the year that they'll predict for next year. This is the color that's where I don't know how they decide. What do you think what's your theory on how they are doing, what they're doing?
I don't really have a good working theory on this one. I assume they consider and look at a large amount of, creative that's been developed, this year, and where people's moods are and what people hope for the next year. I don't know. Color theory is a bit of a, mystery to me.
Right. So last year their color was classic blue, and remember they picked it in December of last year or whatever. Right. And so if that matches your perception of the year, I think that they may be very foresightful, but they probably did not predict a pandemic. So I think it's lucky if you do feel like it fit in, but they usually have some really pretty colors and things that go with the things that they've chosen. This year, they picked not one, but two colors. They have names of these colors. They did give them names, I think, though, right? They usually do.
I mean, gray and
People are
yellow.
highlighting the aesthetics of it, but ultimate gray
Mm-hmm.
was the gray part, and then the yellow, illuminating, they've named it. And
Mm-hmm.
what the way I interpreted it, or maybe I read this, it's skimming headlines, was that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that there's a lot of darkness, but there is hope, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is a pleasant little message to have.
Mm-hmm. Well, to me, like both of those colors, even though, gray might be kind of like a little bit of a downer, I suppose. I think both of those colors are soft and accessible, and gray is like one of the most popular wall colors. It's neutral. It's not offensive to anybody. Art looks good on top of it. Your furniture looks good next to it. And, yellow is just like that bright and cheery and sunny and hopeful and positive. So I think, these are two colors that are trying to tell that story.
Mm-hmm. Now it is always, like any list, it almost seems a bit clickbaity, or trying to create controversy, or at least trying to create discussion. Maybe not trying to create controversy, but discussion. And that's something that we all look forward to, and reminds us that Pantone is there, if we haven't been thinking about them. So I'm wondering whether they have lots of good resources, by the way, on their site, and consulting and all sorts of good things. So, but these two colors, I'm sorry, I keep clicking the wrong things that I don't mean to click. These two colors are mild and pleasant, but people have been highlighting, as we saw in those other little clips, like it looks like warning gear, or some kind of alarm. Or one of the ones that I thought was funnier was, let me find it I can't find it real fast. I'll find it real slow.
Are you talking about some of the like artwork that's represented with
Yes,
the
yes.
colors? Perhaps there's a piece of fruit involved.
Yeah.
It's yellow.
This particular piece of art that created a lot of controversy when it came out last year. Can you see it there? The banana taped with duct tape to the wall. I'm trying to get a photo of it. And that, so there's a lot of interesting discussion about this particular piece of art, and it's interesting, and it creates a lot of things about, like, the impermanence of things, and what is art, and why do we look at it, and so on. But interestingly, it is, a little bit of that gray and a little bit of that illuminating yellow.
It's interesting. Looks connected.
I don't suppose that's what they were thinking, but maybe in the back of their minds.
Yeah, right. So it's fun. This is a fun little like thing to look forward to as designers and people that, are in the creative world, always, waiting for Pantone's color of choice of the year. Do you happen to know off the top of your head, have they ever chosen two before? Or
I believe this is the first time they've chosen two.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting, right?
They have chosen yellow before. It was apparently a warmer yellow, which I'm seeing here on the text is saying it was called Mimosa, which it's lunchtime now, and I wouldn't mind having.
I could totally go for Mimosa right now.
So again, yellow is typically considered, it's certainly used in a lot of cases for warning, because I think human eyes perceive it very quickly, at least in certain cultures. We react to it as like a warning, or it's at least look at this thing.
Yeah.
But it also expresses sort of hope, and in some ways reassurance. You think of, the light of dawn, or as we were saying earlier, like the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, positive for sure. So, well, I guess everybody update your color palettes for 2021. Use some gray, use some yellow. Let us know how you use it and how you incorporate that into your world, if you incorporate it into your world. And yeah, we're coming to the end here of office hours. So I think Pantone's color choice is a good moment to end it. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think so too. And folks, we'll see you next week for our last of our regular weekly office hours. If you have any questions in the meantime, shoot us an email at officehours@shiftcollaborative.com.